I'm Salome van Coller, and I have authored a book called Coaching Leadership Teams, Getting Organizational Culture Aligned. And I have the privilege today to share this book with an audience here at We Read For You by USB Ed. Enjoy. Personally, I believe that as leaders of organizations, whether big or small, we have two streams of business to conduct. We have the business of strategy, making sure we have a vision, mission, goals, and that we are striving towards that and are geared towards that. But on the other hand, equally important, if not more, we have the corporate culture, which has everything to do with how we conduct this business. And it's becoming more and more important to have the ethos of an organization intact. And I firmly believe that when we take time to align the two properly, and it takes time, that we are really building a sustainable organization. Because it's then when what we do and how we do come together, and we support each other in the organization and in teams. And we grow together, we perform together, and we succeed together. So that's really the essence of what I believe. But when I started my coaching education, 2002, I had to do lots of reflection about where I come from, what my perspectives are, my purpose for coaching, and all that. All coaches do that with proper training. I decided if I am to do a training course, there need to be support afterwards for delegates. If there's any assessments done, and I don't have the opportunity to work with the people assessed for a couple of sessions, I don't want the work. And I think one must just sometimes take a stand and say, that's not what you believe in, how do you practice that? Even if they choose to use somebody else. Who knows about dolphins in schools and their behavior? They're very intelligent, hey? Even as a child, the very few times we got to go to the beach, when I saw those dolphins jumping, I thought, that is awesome. It's just awesome. And I didn't know, again, that later on that would be the metaphor for alignment for me. Dolphins are interesting. They are sleeping there right now. Sorry, now they're going to go away. They are sleeping as you see them there. But they've communicated before, and they shut one eye. And others shut the other eye, but they communicate that so that as a pack, as a school, they still have access to both parts of their brains together. And it's amazing how they can really, really, if they work together and swim together, force themselves through a current. And that to me is a metaphor for team coaching. Together, as a school, as a team, one could rethink your thinking, rethink your doing, rethink your speak. But it's sometimes very hard without that support. Okay. So, the essence of the book, the message I want to bring across, and I've been studying for a long time, is how to help organizations take their values and translate them into leadership practice for sustainable change. Because it's no use, first of all, we choose values that our industry expect us to represent. We need to be real in our values, which means the very team that lead the company, their values need to be put on the table, spoken of, made sense of. So for instance, if we say we're transparent as a leadership team, what does it mean we do? What does it mean we don't do? Do we send that agenda 48 hours before the time so everyone can put their agenda on there? Or do we keep it for one or two people? Do we share the successes and the failures of the organization? Do we tell people stuff? Because they can take it if it's bad news, they just want to know. In terms of sustainability, it's not easy to translate those values in leadership practice. So at the top, it might look, transparency might look like that. In a project, transparency might look different. On a site, transparency might look different. So I've learned through making mistakes that one can only make sense of the set of organizational values in your own context, with a systems thinking hat, saying, who are my stakeholders? What do they expect of me? What do I expect of them? What is this mutual relationship? How can we further this? What are the actions, behavior we need to take to build those relationships? And they are underpinned by values. So it's a process, but one can within 6 months make strides if a team is committed in terms of walking the talk. Okay. So I know that some of you had to get the book because you were students. I know some of you bought the book just now or maybe before. Who is the audience you think I speak to in that book? There are 3 audiences. The first 2 are really the team coach and the leader. And the question is, what are the values that we want to hold dear? What are the values we want to be remembered by as a team, as an individual? And what process do we take to ensure that everyone in the organization is aligned in terms of their conduct? How do we recognize that? How do we maybe reward that? Because if it's going to land up on the same scorecard, we need to think. If we want a certain culture to happen, we can let it happen, or we can facilitate it happening. In which case, we need to think, how do we make it part of our daily operation? How do we measure that? How do we make sure it's sustainable? And that's the process. So, strong corporate cultures have alignment even amongst subcultures. Who live in an organization with many different subcultures? Come, ladies and gents. Sure? Okay. And that's a tough one, isn't it? Now you have to align so many divisions, so many departments. And it's not always perfect, but I think what is crucial is that it starts at the top, so that they unpack these leadership values and translate them into practice, and so that in their own context, with their own teams, they go and they trickle it down right through the organization. The other audience, who are students in here? Come on, I know there's a few. Okay. Do you have to do a reflective essay? All of us at this business school have to do, and most universities, at the end of a study like an MBA, an MPhil, whatever we present here, have to do a reflective essay. And you know now my role in the masters, and one of my first students that I had for supervision studied the contribution that reflection and journaling on the MPhil program in coaching contributes to the learning and the real shift within the person, different way of being. So we studied that, and as you know, we read through, we asked permission for 2 groups, the previous year group and the year before, to read through their essays, make sense of it, promised their names wouldn't be used. And we saw a trend, and this is a trend I picked up before, but wasn't sure it was so strong. That for the coaching students, and I'm sure for other students too, it's very hard to own success. They own, all those reflective essays are a lot about learning and mistakes and want to do even better here and there, but they don't own success. What really is in the book is a reflective essay over many years of work. I feel very privileged to have written it. And I just want to tell the students here, everyone in the room, own your success as much as you own your failure, because you need that balance. So for the coaches, I know that the journey to becoming a coach with your own signature presence, which is really what we want a master student to have when they walk out of here. They have their own model, their own approach, their own theoretical underpinning, but it's sound. And they can go to a corporate or any organization and present this to them and show up with their coaching and get a contract. So we're not just doing academic work, we're preparing them for business. And my message to everyone that is in coaching is that remember you are unique because of everything you've gone through in your life, your whole life experience, all your education, all your training, all your interactions, all your mistakes. You are unique, and therefore you need a signature presence of your own. Sit in front of a client and you'll be a coach like no other coach. And that's okay. There's a little coaching model in there, individual coaching model, but it's a series model. I don't want to go too technical for the rest of the audience. But in coaching we have a session model, every session. We also could have 6 or 8 sessions with a person where there's a theme. And we call it a series model. And so this is more a series model. It's not a model for every step, for every coaching session. I believe that what takes the longest time for me in coaching is the first 2, getting to really know each other, exploring the partnership, getting to know that person, for them to get to know you. And then, of course, every other session is 3, 4, and 5. It repeats itself. Coach with zest, come with that energy that you have. Help them to implement and reflect on the implementation. And recognize and appreciate progress. Also recognize and appreciate things that couldn't shift, we couldn't have control over. Okay, so that's a little coaching model. I also, as part of the doctorate, had to think and reflect on team coaching versus facilitation. I think there's a clear difference, and the difference is here in the approach and in the outcome. Because I think a lot of coaches call themselves team coaches, or a lot of facilitators call themselves team coaches, and there's definitely a difference. Okay, so when I was facilitating the strat plan, for instance, it was quite a structured conversation, we want to achieve the mission, vision, values, and all this stuff by a certain time. That's usually what we do. But we also wanted shared meaning. Okay, sits there in the 2. Team coaching, when we started to share our individual perceptions regarding the organizational culture, we definitely shared our meaning, but that could not be a structured conversation, could it? And then coaching towards a commonly shared values and leadership practices is unstructured, but we also need to agree what we walk away with at every session. And there is a timing involved. And then, of course, facilitating team and individual goal setting at the end of the process in terms of how they go forward and how they sustain this process is structured agreement. It's almost like a signed commitment to each other. Okay, so I had to make sense of when do I facilitate, when do I team coach, and although the skill set is the same, I think they're quite different. I want you to go and think, we all are leaders, wherever we are. What are the embodiment of the values that you hold dear? And how are you passing it on to those around you? How do you live and get over the mistakes that you've made and will make? How do you make sense of that? Because we're not perfect. We're going to falter at this. But also, how will you make sense of and embrace and appreciate the progress that you make? Because as leaders and coaches, if we use a coaching approach, a very supportive approach, we can really give people vision. We can help them to create a vision for themselves, whether it's a team or an individual. In this time of uncertainty, a coaching approach to me brings mutual understanding and consensus around the table. Informed choices are made because we listen. We really listen, understand each other. Complexity, we can help. If we speak about the stuff, we can get clarity, even if it's that we're clear that we don't know. Because so we build our agility. Agility to me is just the ability to live with not knowing every day, not knowing exactly enough to make a decision. To live with change.